So I've actually found that for me, it's been a great way of life, because you push yourself in a different way as an entrepreneur, and you notice different things than someone who's working, a traditional 9 to 5 job. There are days when I know I'm going to have to work 16 hours, and what does it take for me to be functioning at full steam for 16 hours? Very, very different than someone who's just going in and punching the clock. So exercise, nutrition, highly recommend studying these things and incorporating them into your daily life. I think they're a really big part of being a successful entrepreneur. So underrated for sure. When I talk about this sometimes at like a business school, people kind of look at me like, why are you talking about yoga? This is about entrepreneurship. But I really do think that all those things are incredibly helpful. So bonus lesson is learn from founders. And what I'm going to do as part of this is I'm going to pull up a document that I've put together for you guys. And, actually, I don't have that available right now. Very, very strange. So I'm going to talk through this, and I'll see while I'm talking through this if I can pull this up. And Koichi, well, if you're on the line, if you have any idea, I've got both a Word doc and a PDF. I can't seem to share either one. So if you have any suggestions for me, send me a message. So the bonus lesson here is to learn from people. There we go. Thanks, guys. It's been a while since I've done that. So it's to learn from people who have been successful entrepreneurs before. And, I can't reiterate how important this is as an entrepreneur, to learn from the mistakes of people who have gone before you. So, an example would be like, a guy like Mark Cuban, or the people in Founders at Work. There's a podcast called Entrepreneurial Thought Leaders that's just absolutely fantastic. If you're an entrepreneur and you haven't listened to every single episode of Entrepreneurial Thought Leaders, drop what you're doing, go, fire up, iTunes and get all those podcasts set up. Venture Voice is a fantastic podcast. Greg Gallant, who does that, is a young guy, and he interviews the most amazing people. So the wealth of knowledge that's out there right now is literally unprecedented. It's, I mentioned this before with social media. We've never been in a period of time where you can read a blog from Mark Cuban, the guy who started broadcast.com and sold it for billions of dollars, and now owns the Dallas Mavericks. Read a book like Founders at Work, listen to a podcast like Venture Voice or Entrepreneurial Thought Leaders, watch a movie like Startup.com. This is something that entrepreneurs 50 years ago didn't have that. They largely had to kind of figure it out on their own. Maybe they'd have a few friends they could talk to. But nowadays, we literally can go out there and just learn from every good entrepreneur, for the most part. I mean, the ones that have chosen to share their stuff publicly. So in the PDF, and if most of you should have been able to download the PDF by now, if you haven't, post something in the chat pod, but definitely do that if you can. But in the PDF, there are links to about 10 of my favorite blogs that I follow on a very regular basis, from either people who are entrepreneurs, people who are venture capitalists, talking about entrepreneurship, talking about business. I've got probably about a half dozen books in there. I've got, I think 3 or 4 podcasts. I've got a couple of movies. So immerse yourself in this stuff. Like, literally, just go to town, listen to every single episode, read every single blog post. Like, I actually went back for a couple of my favorite bloggers who had been blogging for like 3 or 4 years, and I literally went back and read every single post they'd ever written. And it took me a long time to do that. But I learned lessons about the way they were talking about things back in 2004 and 2005 and 2006. And I think that that's something that you can do. So, definitely subscribe to those blogs and read them on a regular basis, but also go back in the archives and see what you might have missed. So that is about it. It's 4 o'clock, and I'm going to leave the file share window open. What I'm going to do right now is kind of make the attendee list a little bit bigger so I can actually see more of who's in the class. We've got 68 people. It's held pretty consistent for the hour, so I must not be boring anybody too much, because we haven't had a big drop off. But what I want to do is I want to open it up for people who might have questions, and you can either ask your question in the chat pod, and I'll respond to it that way, or you can ask your question via audio or video, and I'll bring you up on audio or video to do that. If you want to do that, what you want to do is you'll want to just go ahead and raise your hand. And in the lower corner of the screen, you'll notice there's an opportunity there to raise your hand, and then I'll pull you up onto audio or video. And if I don't notice you, because the list actually is so long that I have to scroll through it, if I don't notice you right away, just put a message in the chat pot, and I'll get you there. And also, too, for those of you who haven't been on audio or video before with EduFire, you know, there sometimes is a little bit of a setup process. So if we're having difficulty with audio or video, that's something that what I'll probably just do is have you ask your question in the text chat, just because I want to make sure we keep going. So I'm going to go ahead and, wow, sweet, we got some people here. So go ahead and what I'm doing right now is I'm just going ahead and setting you to a different role, which allows you to come on audio or video. If you've never been on audio or video before, there's a camera button just to the lower left of my name. And yeah, let me make the slides available. That's a really good idea, Kairos. I'll make the slides available here for you guys to download as well. Got a lot going on my screen right now. So, yeah, and we will have the recording, Bjorn, we will have the recording available later on. We'll put that up. We've been putting up a lot of stuff on YouTube. We'll also probably put it up on EduFire at some point. So, oh yeah, it's a good point, Koichi. It'll actually appear automatically in my EduFire portion. So I've drew and